In one moment, it was just an ill-advised joke. Within hours, the nation teetered on the edge of a media war. Donald Trump, angrier than ever, stood up to defend his son, Barron. But what really went down behind the scenes of this explosive story? What he said in response changed everything. And this was only the beginning. Hollywood was no stranger to biting humor. The stage of a live evening show had seen many harsh jibes before. That night, however, the tone shifted. Jimmy Rullis, known for his razor-sharp satire, pushed the boundaries further than ever. In the middle of his broadcast, he delivered a line that cut deep. "Barron Trump," he declared, his voice echoing across the studio, they say is working on his future career, testing whether he can get a discount at McDonald's without the weight of his father's name. The audience erupted in raucous laughter. The applause was immediate and fierce. Under that cover of cheers, Rullis continued without pause. "Maybe he doesn't know what work is," he added, "but one thing's for sure, his father is bound to show him exactly how to bankrupt companies." Those words struck like a sledgehammer. The joke was more than mere humor. It was a direct jab at the Trump family. It wasn't just about a quip on Barron's prospects. It was a blow aimed at questioning the legacy and future of one of America's most famous families. Almost immediately, social media picked up the snippet. Within minutes, clips of Rullis's comments were being shared and reshared across all platforms. The tone online was sharply divided. Some hailed the remark as bold and daring satire, praising Rullis for his fearless approach. Others saw it as an outright attack on a child, and the outcry was fierce. Conservative voices exploded on Twitter and Facebook. "They're attacking a child," headlines screamed in posts. People who once admired the humor now felt that the joke crossed a line. The digital battle lines were drawn. On one side, supporters of Rullis defended his right to free speech. On the other, many insisted that no person, especially a minor, should be made the target of such cruel commentary. The backlash was swift and intense. Traditional media outlets began reporting on the incident within hours. Editors, anchors, and pundits weighed in, their voices sharp and divided. News tickers flashed warnings of a brewing scandal. Journalists camped outside the studio, ready to capture every development. Inside the studio, tension mounted. Rullis's team scrambled to manage the fallout. Comment sections were flooded with rage and disbelief. Sponsors, alarmed by the unexpected uproar, started pulling support from the show. The network's executives huddled in crisis meetings, unsure of how to steer the situation. Meanwhile, the Trump camp was far from silent. Although Donald Trump initially maintained a low profile, the first tremors of his reaction were felt. His advisors were quick to note that this was not just another joke, it was a provocation aimed at his family's honor. The first signs of mobilization began as private meetings among his inner circle. They discussed how best to counter the rising tide of criticism and what message would resonate most with their supporters. The nation watched with bated breath. On television, headlines flashed the explosive words, "Trump defends Barron," and "Media war on the horizon." In homes across America, viewers tuned in, eager to see what would happen next. There was no pause, no delay. Every second carried a promise of more revelations. Critics argued that Rullis's comments undermined the boundaries of acceptable humor. Supporters claimed that the remarks were a natural part of the freewheeling nature of late-night television. But the discussion quickly turned into a battleground of opinions and ideologies. At local diners, in office break rooms, and across living rooms, debates ignited. Every conversation circled back to that one explosive moment. The drama did not stop at social media. Behind closed doors, powerful media figures discussed damage control. Journalists prepared follow-up stories, while legal experts began to speculate on possible defamation claims. It was clear to everyone that this incident was not a fleeting controversy, it was the spark for a larger conflict. As the night wore on, more details emerged about the show's production. Sources hinted that Rullis had known his joke would spark controversy. Some insiders claimed that the provocative nature of his remarks was premeditated, a deliberate move to challenge the establishment. Others insisted that it was a moment of poor judgment, an offhand remark that spiraled out of control. Yet, amid all the chaos, one fact remained undeniable. The joke had set off a chain reaction. Public opinion was polarized. Television ratings soared as people tuned in, hungry for more details on the unfolding scandal. Even as critics lambasted the comment, many found themselves unable to look away. And so, as the first wave of outrage began to settle, the stage was set for what would come next. The media frenzy was only in its infancy. Behind every angry tweet, every headline, and every heated discussion, there lurked the promise of a more explosive reaction. The nation waited, knowing that the coming hours would reveal further twists in this dangerous game of words. What would Donald Trump say? How would his defenders respond? And could the fallout from one controversial joke be contained at all? The tension was palpable. The night was far from over, and the first act of a story that promised to reshape the media landscape was only just beginning. But then, something unexpected was about to happen, a moment that would escalate the conflict into uncharted territory. Stay tuned, because the real storm was just on the horizon. That same evening, Barron Trump's name exploded onto Twitter. Within minutes, hashtags, memes, and relentless posts flooded the platform. Memes mocked his every move. In one viral clip, a user compared his childhood photos to a Hollywood starlet's makeover, a move that triggered even harsher attacks. Social media users began dredging up every detail of his past. Photos from early childhood, family vacations, and even candid moments were twisted into jokes. The internet was divided. Some called it edgy humor, while others decried it as a cruel invasion of a child's privacy. In living rooms across the nation, heated discussions erupted. Liberals rallied around Jimmy Rullis, insisting that his remark was simply a form of satire. "This is just entertainment," one tweet read. "Trump and his family should be ready for a dose of reality," another argued. Meanwhile, conservative groups decried the personal nature of the attacks. "They are bullying a child who had no say in this," posted one outraged fan, sparking thousands of similar responses. The backlash wasn't confined to social media. Television and radio hosts mentioned the controversy repeatedly. In several cable news segments, analysts debated whether the joke crossed the line between humor and harassment. The chatter reached a fever pitch, and soon, pressure began mounting on the network behind Rullis's show. In the next broadcast, the tension was palpable. As the camera rolled, Jimmy Rullis appeared unrepentant. With a wry smile and a tone dripping with sarcasm, he addressed the controversy directly. "I'm sorry that someone decided billionaire kids need more protection than kids who actually work," he said. His words, intended as a barb, reverberated through the studio and beyond. "Barron will survive," he added, punctuating his statement with a defiant laugh. The studio audience, already divided by opinion, responded with mixed reactions. A few cheered, but many remained silent, their expressions unreadable. The comment, far from calming the storm, only fueled it further. Immediately after the broadcast, sponsors began pulling their ads. The network's digital team scrambled to control the damage. They shut down the comments section under the episode's video, hoping to stem the tide of vitriol. Yet, the public's anger could not be silenced by a mere technical fix. Outside the network's headquarters, protest actions started to form. Small groups of Trump supporters gathered, holding signs that decried the attack on a child. They called for boycotts of the show, chanting slogans that echoed in the night. Meanwhile, influential voices online, many of whom had been quiet until now, began mobilizing their followers. Forums, live streams, and heated chat rooms buzzed with activity, each person dissecting every word of Rullis's statement. News outlets seized on the drama. Headlines screamed about a media war and digital bullying as pundits debated the ethical boundaries of comedy. One reporter noted, "The incident is more than a joke gone wrong. It has become a battleground for free speech versus personal protection." Interviews with experts emerged, analyzing whether this was an isolated incident or a sign of a larger cultural rift. The media's constant coverage only amplified the controversy, drawing more eyes to the relentless storm of opinions. At a local diner in downtown Manhattan, a small group of regulars discussed the issue over coffee. "This isn't just about a joke," said one middle-aged man, scrolling through his phone. "It's about what we tolerate in our society." A young woman at the table countered, "But satire has always been a part of our culture. You can't just shield everyone from criticism." Their voices merged into a cacophony of perspectives, each side convinced of their righteousness. Back in the digital arena, trolls and cyber activists continued their campaign. Personal attacks became more vicious as the night wore on. Every new post seemed to push the debate further into extreme territory. The relentless barrage of criticism and support alike kept the trending topic alive well into the late hours. As the controversy escalated, network executives convened emergency meetings. Legal teams were put on standby, anticipating potential defamation claims. Yet, amid all the chaos, one fact remained clear. The impact of Rulli's remark had far exceeded what anyone had expected. The public's reaction was explosive, unpredictable, and far-reaching. Throughout all the turmoil, one element stood out: the unwavering silence from Donald Trump. As the nation clashed over whether the joke was acceptable, Trump's refusal to respond spoke volumes. His silence was no longer just a gap in the narrative. It had become a loud, resounding statement in itself. While everyone debated and defended their views, Trump's quiet stance hinted at strategies and decisions yet to be revealed. He had no comment, yet his silence resonated with supporters and critics alike. The digital arena continued to pulse with energy, each new post building on the chaos of the previous one. Every tweet, every article, and every conversation added layers to the controversy. In the midst of this storm, it was clear that this was more than just a fleeting moment of online outrage. The seeds of a larger conflict had been sown, and as the nation braced itself, everyone wondered what would come next. Meanwhile, while the country was fighting over the jokes, Donald Trump remained silent. His silence was getting louder. The campaign against Rulli's escalated into a full-blown movement. Activists took to social media, demanding a boycott of his show with the hashtag #ProtectBarron trending across platforms. Every post, tweet, and share added fuel to the fire. The online community grew increasingly restless, and calls for accountability grew louder with each passing hour. Simultaneously, Hollywood rallied around Jimmy Rulli's. Top celebrities and industry insiders came forward in support of the host, emphasizing that satire was the cornerstone of free speech. Open letters flooded the media, with one particularly impactful letter signed by over 100 influential actors and directors declaring, "We will not allow children to be used as a shield for political manipulation." This statement resonated deeply within the entertainment community, framing the controversy as a broader debate over the limits of humor and the responsibilities of public figures. Despite this support, the controversy took an unexpected turn when former First Lady Melania Trump entered the fray. In a tweet that quickly captured national attention, she wrote, "A mother cannot stand by while her son is attacked. Children should not be part of political satire. Jimmy Rulli's should be ashamed." The tweet garnered millions of likes almost instantly, amplifying the public outcry and forcing even the staunchest critics to re-examine the issue. Melania's intervention shifted the narrative, presenting the controversy not merely as an issue of free speech, but as a matter of protecting a child's dignity. The impact on Rulli's was immediate and severe. His ratings began to plummet as viewers turned away from what was once a celebrated program. The steady decline in viewership caught the attention of the network's executives. In an effort to salvage the situation, the studio released a statement promising to review the format of the show and address the growing concerns. However, Rulli's remained unyielding. In his subsequent broadcasts, he stubbornly refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing, dismissing the backlash as an overreaction to harmless satire. The mounting pressure from both the media and the audience eventually forced the network's hand. Under the relentless scrutiny and negative publicity, the channel made the difficult decision to temporarily suspend the program's broadcast. This move sent shockwaves throughout the industry. For many, the suspension was a clear sign that the controversy had reached a tipping point, and it sparked heated debates about censorship, artistic freedom, and the boundaries of humor. Inside the network's boardroom, executives and legal teams scrambled to devise a plan to mitigate the fallout. Emergency meetings were held, and strategies were discussed to restore public trust. Yet, despite these efforts, the damage to Rulli's reputation seemed irreversible. The suspension was seen as a direct consequence of his refusal to apologize, and the public's anger was far from abating. For Rulli's, the suspension marked a critical turning point, a blow that cut deeper than he had anticipated. He had always prided himself on his fearless approach to comedy, but now, the stakes were higher than ever before. The suspension did not silence his supporters in Hollywood, nor did it diminish the argument that satire was essential to public discourse. Instead, it intensified the debate, pitting the ideals of free expression against the moral obligation to protect the vulnerable. As the controversy deepened, opinions remained sharply divided. Some viewers continued to support Rullies, arguing that his refusal to back down was a testament to his commitment to artistic integrity. Others, however, saw his defiance as a dangerous sign of the growing disregard for the impact of words, especially when those words targeted a child. In boardrooms, on news programs, and across social media, the conversation revolved around whether the show's suspension would lead to meaningful change in the media landscape, or if it was merely a temporary setback. For Jimmy Rullies, the temporary shutdown was only the beginning of a storm he had yet to fully comprehend. He remained defiant, unaware that the worst was still ahead. By the time the studio's statement was issued and public opinion reached a fever pitch, Rullies had no choice now. The next move was already decided. Donald Trump decided to act. After 2 weeks of silence, he took the stage at a major rally in Florida. The whole erupted in applause as he stepped up to the microphone. His presence was commanding and his voice firm. "They think they can mock our children. They think free speech is a license for hate. But we'll show them. There are things that are untouchable," he declared, his words cutting through the noise. The crowd roared in approval. Every word was met with thunderous clapping and shouts of support. Trump's speech was emotional yet convincing. He spoke with a controlled fury that resonated with his supporters. With each sentence, he built the case for his next move. He announced, without hesitation, that he was launching a lawsuit against the network that employed Jimmy Rullies. The charges were clear: defamation and moral damage. Trump made it known that his legal action was aimed at protecting his family's honor and ensuring that no one could treat his children as targets for cheap jokes. In that charged moment, the tone of the entire event shifted. Supporters cheered louder as they felt a surge of pride and determination. Media cameras flashed, capturing every expression and every word. Behind the scenes, advisors exchanged quick, determined looks. They knew this was a turning point. Back at the network headquarters, the news hit hard. For Jimmy Rullies, the reaction was instantaneous. In a quiet moment before his next show, Rullies realized that the situation had spiraled completely out of control. It was the moment he understood that his defiant stance had now provoked the full force of Trump's influence and the public's backlash. He had never expected that a joke would lead to such fierce consequences. As the rally continued, the atmosphere grew even more intense. Just when it seemed the night had reached its climax with Trump's stirring declaration, an unexpected figure emerged at the edge of the stage. Barron Trump, who had been kept out of the spotlight until now, made his way to the front. The audience hushed as he stepped up to the stage, his presence a quiet but powerful counterpoint to the charged energy around him. Barron took a deep breath and spoke in a calm, measured tone. "I just want people to understand. Children do not choose to be a part of this. We deserve respect." His words, simple and sincere, carried immense weight. The crowd fell silent for a moment, processing the unexpected vulnerability of the youngest member of the Trump family. His statement was a plea for understanding and a reminder that his life had been thrust into the political arena without his consent. The impact of Barron's words was immediate and profound. Supporters and even some moderate critics began to reconsider their positions. Some liberal publications that had once defended Rullies now admitted that he had crossed the line. The tone of the debate shifted from one of political rivalry to a broader conversation about the ethical responsibilities of public figures. Under mounting public pressure and widespread media scrutiny, Jimmy Rullies' studio was forced to issue a public apology. The statement was brief and to the point, acknowledging that the comments had gone too far. However, it did little to quell the rising tide of discontent among those who felt the apology was too little, too late. Inside the packed auditorium, the atmosphere was electric. Every eye was fixed on the stage as the night's events unfolded in real time. Trump's bold move, combined with Barron's unexpected appearance, had sent shockwaves through the nation. For the first time in weeks, it was clear that the controversy had reached a fever pitch. As the rally began to wind down, the crowd's energy remained high, buzzing with anticipation of what would happen next. For Trump, the decision to act was not just a political statement, it was a declaration that the battle for respect and honor had only just begun. He had no choice now. The next move was already decided. Jimmy Rullies' show was closed 3 months after the scandal. The television host vanished from the public sphere, dismissing the entire episode as nothing more than political pressure. His disappearance was swift and final, a move that left his once loyal viewers stunned and his critics vindicated. The network, reeling from continuous backlash and plummeting ratings, decided that cutting ties with Rullies was the only viable option to restore their credibility. In the wake of this dramatic fallout, Donald Trump seized the moment. He channeled the controversy into a larger campaign aimed at regulating media ethics. At press conferences and on social media, Trump declared that the unchecked power of the media had endangered national values and endangered the reputation of his family. His campaign, initially dismissed by some as a mere political maneuver, quickly gathered momentum. What began as a calculated response soon evolved into a powerful movement that resonated with a broad spectrum of Americans. Despite skepticism from his critics, the campaign for media ethics regulation grew, drawing support from voters who were tired of sensationalism and reckless humor. While Trump's battle against the media intensified, Barron Trump managed to slip back into normalcy. Yet his life would never be the same. Once merely a bystander in the public eye, Barron became an enduring symbol of the fight to protect children from becoming pawns in political and media battles. His name began to represent the cause of ethical journalism and responsible reporting. Barron's quiet return to everyday life was marked by his newfound status as a figure of resilience. Public service announcements and charity events soon featured him as the face of campaigns advocating for media reform, reinforcing his role as a beacon of hope for those who believed in safeguarding the rights of the innocent. Meanwhile, Hollywood was forced to take stock of the lessons learned. The controversy over Jimmy Rullies' biting satire had ignited debates across studios and film sets. Prominent producers and directors admitted that even the sharpest humor must respect boundaries. Industry insiders held roundtable discussions on ethical standards, acknowledging that when jokes target vulnerable individuals, especially children, the consequences can be far-reaching. The entertainment world, always quick to push limits, now recognized that there was a fine line between provocative satire and outright abuse. This lesson, hard-earned and publicly scrutinized, reshaped the way comedians and television hosts approached their craft. As the dust settled on the scandal, society found itself deeply divided. Politicians, pundits, and ordinary citizens continued to argue over the implications of the entire debacle. Some defended the principle of free speech, arguing that any attempt to regulate humor was a threat to creative expression. Others insisted that the protection of vulnerable individuals, particularly children, was a non-negotiable moral duty. Heated debates on talk shows and in online forums underscored the polarized views, yet a surprising consensus emerged on one point: the scandal had irrevocably changed the rules of engagement in the American media space. The media landscape, once dominated by the allure of unbridled commentary and provocative humor, was now forced to reconsider its ethics. Newsrooms began drafting stricter guidelines for on-air content. Journalists and hosts were encouraged to weigh their words carefully, aware that the repercussions of their commentary could extend far beyond ratings and viewership. Regulatory bodies, once hesitant to intervene, started holding public hearings on the impact of media practices on society's moral fabric. In boardrooms and studios across the nation, executives were reminded that the pursuit of profit must never come at the expense of public decency. In the end, the scandal left a mark that would not fade with time. It was a turning point that forced America to confront the limits of free speech in an era where every word could spark a national debate. While opinions remained divided and passions ran high, one thing was certain: this scandal had rewritten the rules of the game in the American media space. By morning, everything would be different.